Chicago Fire Season 14 needs to bring back one new Season 13 character, even though their story's done. There weren't many cliffhangers at the end of Chicago Fire Season 13, but one character whose story has technically ended shouldn't say goodbye yet. Despite the sometimes overwhelming size of the Chicago Fire cast, every one of them has something special to offer. When Violet and Novak disappear for an episode, or when Carver disappears for several days in a row, right after returning from leave, fans take notice. Thankfully, most of the cast appear in the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale in one way or another. If anything, it's the characters who didn't conclude their current storylines that were surprising. Carver and Ritter leaving ahead of Chicago Fire Season 14 was announced well before the Season 13 finale, so they had a chance to do something different from previous one Chicago character exits. Carver and Ritter could have been given happy endings rather than surprise deaths or one-dialogue explanations for their disappearance, but they weren't given any. It's uncertain how that will be addressed in Season 14. Meanwhile, another character's apparent exit needs to remain wholly unofficial. After Kid has an emotional talk with Natalie's sister, the Chicago Fire Season 13 finale ends with Julia helping Natalie pack up to leave Stella Rides. Julia even offers to buy her sister new clothes because she doesn't love what they're packing. Since Kid spends the last 2 episodes of the season trying to put Natalie in touch with family who can take care of her, the role she's been filling in the Evans siblings' lives appears to have run its course. Natalie stopped participating in Girls on Fire after Stella caught her smoking, and it's largely suggested that Natalie's only reason for her acts of rebellion, such as smoking and skipping school, was that she felt unwanted. With that mended, there's no reason outside of monetary help that Natalie and Julia should need help from Kid or Severide anymore. This might be a relief for the couple currently occupying a spot among Chicago Fire's best romances, but the series shouldn't close the door on Natalie Evans just yet. After everything she's put them through, it wouldn't be shocking if Stella and Kelly were ready to have Natalie out of their lives. She nearly risked her safety by trying to get high during Girls on Fire training, wasted Kelly's time by falsely accusing her sister of arson, asked for money to see a mother she hadn't actually contacted, and got Kid called into the school for an unexpected meeting. It often seemed as if Kid and Severide were treating Natalie almost as a surrogate daughter, especially since their adoption plans evaporated just before the end of her story arc. Whether their newfound pregnancy will work out remains one of Chicago Fire's biggest unanswered questions until that storyline follows through in Season 14, but they should continue making time for Natalie either way. Stella saved Natalie's life a decade ago while working at another firehouse, making Natalie an important figure in Stella's professional, and now personal, life. She even tells Natalie on their road trip that she still remembers the fire. Even if Natalie pops up to confirm she rejoined Girls on Fire, it's good for Stella to continue seeing how the life she saved has turned out. Since Natalie felt like a surrogate daughter, Kid and Severide's Chicago Fire pregnancy might seem to negate the need for her character. However, they weren't expecting to wait that long to meet their child. Stellaride now has months to doubt their abilities as parents ahead of Kid's childbirth, and their continued presence in Natalie's life could be exactly what they need to quell those doubts. After this long, Julia won't likely adapt to raising her sister alone overnight, but helping with any struggles that arise can provide Stellaride with glimpses into their future when needed most. Technically, Natalie doesn't need to appear physically to provide Stella with that kind of reassurance. Just as Monica Pascal's death fueled several episodes worth of story, Natalie may continue to be a felt presence in Kid and Kelly's lives until the day they hold their own child in their arms. But even a one-episode follow-up would show that Chicago Fire doesn't forget those the CFT has saved. They're still out there, enjoying the second chance at life they've been given. There'd be no more uplifting way for season 14 to truly cap off Natalie's storyline. There's a firehouse-sized hole still smoldering in the hearts of Chicago Fire fans, and it's shaped exactly like Otis. Yes, Brian Zvonsek, our beloved, goofy, big-hearted firefighter who gave his life in the Season 8 premiere, may be gone, but the embers of his story still glow in the fabric of Firehouse 51. His journey felt complete in many ways. His heroism honored. His legacy immortalized. But that doesn't mean we're ready to let go. In fact, Chicago Fire needs to bring Otis back, even if it's just for one more haunting, hopeful, heart-punching return. Otis was never the loudest character. He didn't lead big dramatic arcs like Casey or Severide. But he mattered. He was the soul of the house, the humor when things got dark, the one always chasing dreams. Whether it was a side hustle like the Mouch Plus Otis podcast or brewing beer in the common room. His optimism was contagious, and his loyalty was unwavering. And when he died in that factory explosion, fans weren't just shocked, we were gutted. So why bring him back now, when his arc was tied off so poignantly with the Brotherhood mural on the firehouse wall, and Joe Cruz naming his son after him? Because closure doesn't mean absence. Because sometimes stories don't end. They echo. Imagine this. Cruz, now a father, begins to feel the strain of balancing high-stakes rescues with being a present, reliable parent. He's doubting himself, withdrawing. The team sees the cracks but doesn't know how to reach him. And then, out of nowhere, Otis shows up. Not physically, but in a dream. A hallucination, a moment of spiritual reckoning. Call it what you want, just bring him back. In this dream, Cruz is back in the bunks, laughing as Otis tries to convince him to invest in a new app idea. It feels real. They fall into their old banter effortlessly. But slowly the scene shifts. The walls burn away. They're standing in the charred remains of that old factory. Otis looks at him and says, "You're still trying to save everybody, Joe. Even when it means losing yourself. But you can't do that. Not now. Not with your kid depending on you." It wouldn't be a simple nostalgia grab. This wouldn't be a throwaway cameo. It would be a meaningful re-entry, a way to explore how grief evolves, how the dead still influence the living, how firehouse families never really lose each other. And let's face it, Chicago Fire is no stranger to bringing back characters whose time supposedly ended. Casey has returned. So has Severide after dramatic exits. Even characters like Gabby Dawson and Shay have made spiritual or flashback appearances. Why not Otis? Why not the one who gave everything? Beyond Cruz's arc, Otis's return could serve other purposes. What about Kid? She's rising through the ranks, but sometimes feels isolated in her new leadership role. Maybe she finds a dusty old tape in the storage room, a podcast episode Otis never released. In it, he talks about imposter syndrome, about fearing failure, about wanting to be respected. It's everything Kid needs to hear. A time capsule pep talk from someone who always saw her potential. Or imagine Gallo, young, impulsive, carrying the weight of trying to be everyone's favorite hero. Maybe he gets injured and starts to question his future at 51. While recovering, he visits the firehouse and sees that mural of Otis. It sparks something. He starts asking stories about him. Slowly, Otis becomes a compass for him. Not a ghost haunting, but a legacy guiding. Even Bowden, the stoic anchor of the team, could use Otis's presence. In a moment of reflection, maybe he rereads Otis's final performance evaluations. Notes of kindness, teamwork, fear conquered. Bowden could use those words to inspire a new batch of recruits, showing that sometimes the ones who seem small in the moment cast the longest shadows. There's also something powerful about how Otis died, saving a life. Not in a dramatic, TV tragic, he got shot in the line of duty way, but in a quiet, painful, realistic moment. He pushed forward when he could have stepped back. That's the kind of heroism worth remembering, worth revisiting. And maybe that's the heart of it. Otis's story wasn't just his. It was intertwined with every person at Firehouse 51. His absence changed them. And to bring him back, however briefly, isn't about resurrecting the past. It's about honoring the ongoing impact of someone gone too soon.